Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Thank you all for being here today. We have a good crowd today. Whether you're in person, good crowd. Zoom, I'm sure, also has a good crowd today. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada, where our mission is to grow together in love, faith, justice, and joy. My name is Carrie DeBarger, and I am the worship associate today for service, which will be a continuation of the Four Agreements service. If you're new here, welcome. We have a newcomer form online that we'd love for you to fill out. At UUFNN, we welcome all to be part of our community, regardless of racial identity, age, economic circumstances, immigration status, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Because it is important now, as it is always, to come together, accept people, and be kind to those around you. I wanted to inform you all that because I'm starting college in a few weeks, I'm moving into the dorms next week. This might be the last time I'm your WA for a while, but don't worry. UNR is close by, so I plan to stay around. You'll see me around. And I also plan to continue serving as a WA after the start of the school year calms down and I figure out my footing of college. But until then, I just wanted to briefly mention what being a WA has taught me. Dave Bianchi actually began mentoring me as a WA right before the pandemic hit. So that would have been like over 2 years ago. Then I've learned how to adapt quickly to, obviously, for a while, the full Zoom services. I learned how to take the lead on services sometimes. And I also got to see firsthand how hard our tech team works and how hard all of our staff works. UU services are a production, but one that I am very glad to be able to participate in. So as always, welcome and thank you for being here.
How good it is on this lovely Sunday morning to be together in beloved community. Beloved community is where we celebrate our joys together and where in times of sorrow and difficulty, we draw solace and strength and courage and the hope of going on and knowing what to do. And I have certainly experienced that from you in these last weeks. So thank you for that. And I invite us all to come fully present to that reality, that potential that sometimes we take for granted. And so I invite us to soak it in today, whatever it is that we bring, wherever it is that we are. May we come fully present to the reality that is our beloved community in this place.
For those of you on Zoom at home, I invite you to light your own chalice here in the great room. We have our lovely chalice with these chalice lighting words from Don Miguel Ruiz's Four Agreements book. Whatever life takes away from you, let it go. When you surrender and let go of the past, you allow yourself to be fully alive in the moment. Letting go of the past means you can enjoy the dream that is happening now. And now the relighting of the chalice that blew out. Maybe not today, but the little tea light is lit, so that counts as something at least. It's right in the back. So I've grown up in this congregation, and I know it is a safe place for me to express my beliefs and be heard and respected. And being a part of UU has shaped me into who I am today. And it's definitely opened my eyes to a world of opportunity and people. And I hope to continue to be an active member of our congregation for many, many years. Thank you for taking care of this beloved community and our community on the whole through the offering. August Share the Plate recipient is the Northern Nevada International Center. The NNIC resettles displaced people who are seeking security and safety. Currently, the NNIC is assessing the situation in Ukraine and providing funds to organizations that are working to address the needs of the Ukrainians in peril. In addition, since December of 2021, NNIC has provided assistance to over 150 Afghan refugees. UUFNN has provided dedicated and responsive volunteers who work with these families in a variety of ways. Volunteers commit to an ultimate goal of helping Reno's new citizens reach self-sufficiency. Our contributions assist families reach this goal by providing funding for furnishings, rent, groceries, household goods, school supplies, and other necessities. If you're in the great room, we have the physical offering, but remember, you can always donate online by texting 73256 with the message UUFNN. Thank you for your contributions to our beloved community. Now let the offering begin. It's too windy for the chalice today. But please join me now in blessing these offerings to the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. We dedicate ourselves and these our offerings.
It's wonderful to be back with you today. Back in May, which seems like lifetimes ago now, Philip and I began this UUFNN talk show series on the book, The Four Agreements, which is by Don Miguel Ruiz. And so we're going to pick up that thread and continue it today, and we'll do a final installment at some point in the future, TBA. So we'll let you know about that. Many of you have told me that you have read the Four Agreements, you're familiar with it, you loved the ideas that it presents. And basically, it's a framework of how we might live our lives, which as you use, we know how important that is, right? And it's become something of a pop culture phenomenon, having sold over 9 million copies in this country and translated to 46 languages around the world. I loved when Heather, who participates in our congregation, told me that in a boutique hotel in Portland, Oregon, she found Four Agreements in the drawer rather than at Gideon's Bible. And these ideas originally came from the Toltec people who lived thousands of years ago in southern Mexico. And so they've been passed down for really thousands of years. And it's just a way of looking aspirationally how we might seek to live as our best and highest selves. And so in May, we talked about the first agreement, which was be impeccable to your word. And then we followed that with the second agreement, which is don't take anything personally. And that brings us to the third agreement for today, which is do not make assumptions. And so I wonder, Philip, if you could tell us a little bit about what do not make assumptions means for you as you have tried to live out the Four Agreements and what you may have discovered about that very tall order.
I will just start by saying that I aspire to not make assumptions. I think that was a nice modification that we made based on our congregational covenant. We talk a lot about aspirations rather than faulting ourselves for not meeting particular criteria. In this case, it's definitely an aspiration. My very wise wife was reminding me that there are really two steps here. The first is an acknowledgement of when we're making assumptions, and the second is to speak up and ask for clarification as to what's actually happening with the other person you're involved with. And for me, I've gotten a lot of messages recently about needing to interrupt those standard thought processes. And for me, what that means is those things that make me feel, technical term here, icky, where I'm not feeling good about myself. And I'm wondering, wow, where did that come from? Is that something that I need to reflect on because there's something cycling around inside of me? And how did that get triggered? Well, was there a particular look in someone's eyes, or something that they said that I might have misconstrued, or a situation that just didn't seem to be going quite the way I wanted to? So if I were to talk about my practice right now, I would solely say that it is to acknowledge those situations where something is happening in the environment, or something is said, someone said something that has triggered those old tapes, and not necessarily try to correct it, but boy, try to stop those old tapes from playing so that I can interrupt that process, because it never really is helpful. Despite the number of times I've run those tapes, it never seems to help. Then the second step is to, in fact, ask the other person about what's going on and what may be causing their reaction, or something that they said may be causing yours. And that's a hard step, frankly, because it goes against societal expectations that we just, we're free and happy and going along. And all of a sudden say, well, wait a second. Something you just said triggered me, and I need to stop and understand that triggering before we go on. And while I do have a story to share about that, I wanted to ask Reverend Karen, because I know she has a story where talking about making assumptions.
So before I share this, I just want to say that I do think it's part of the way that we're wired as human beings to take our lived experience and bring it forward with us as learning, for better and for worse. And so some of our assumptions come from lived experience. And all of the isms in our society, that's a piece of what make them so complex and so difficult to work on, because there's something that comes with us out of our experience. So that's the hard work of undoing many of that, unlearning, rewiring those experiences. A couple of years ago, right about the time that we were going into COVID, a long distance friend was really encouraging Sue and I to meet and socialize with and become friends with a couple who lived very near to us, who lived around the corner. And so finally, we took some steps to make that happen outside of our homes during COVID. And we pulled up to their house, and there was this gargantuan pickup truck. And I will tell you that out of my lived experience, Sue and I have had a few opportunities to attempt to form social relationships, to have it unfold that in a mixed gender relationship, sometimes in the other couple, the male type person has felt that to socialize, they needed another male type person. And so that has been a part of our lived experience. So we pulled up to this house, and I just thought, here we go again. So we proceeded to get to know this couple, and we began to talk, and the male type person in the relationship began to talk with me and question me about my ministry And then he shared that he is a former minister in the Methodist Church. He is a wonderful listener. We share a love of biking and reading and theology and exploring and questioning and deep conversations. He's a wonderful pastoral person, has been present with me in these last few weeks, and he is today one of my very closest friends. And so it has caused me to notice that I made some assumptions based on my experience going into that situation. And what might I have missed out on if I had held fast to those assumptions? And so it's important that when we have a this is what I learned, when I have a lived experience, it's important that I not generalize that to the totality of humanity. I'm so grateful for this friendship in my life. It has nurtured my life tremendously and is a wonderful addition to a cadre of friends. And I adore this man and his wife too, but we have become beautiful friends. And I'm so grateful that my assumptions were incorrect.
Thank you. I would share that one of the things that struck me in rereading this book, and particularly this chapter, I think about the song that was just sung, "Come, come, yet again, come. If you've broken your aspirations 1,000 times, come, yet again, come." So in rereading this chapter, it struck me maybe for the first time, my yoga instructor would laugh because she always tells me, "I tell you the same thing every time, you're just not ready to hear it." Well, in this case, what evidently I was ready to hear is how rampant making assumptions is within our most intimate relationships. And for me, of course, that's with my wife. And she is such a wonderful and caring person. And I often forget that she doesn't read my mind. She does a great job of interpreting what I want. But I need to certainly not make assumptions about what's going on with her. And I do have, fortunately, an example that I can share recently where I actually caught myself making an assumption. Grace was a little bit upset about something that our daughter had done. Go figure. And I was beginning to wonder if there's something about my reaction that was causing her to get really, really upset about this. And we had a couple of very not so good telephone conversations. I finally called her back and I was like, "Grace, really, what's going on? The reaction you seem to be having, it seems to be out of measure with this particular situation." And 10 minutes later, I understood all of the complexities of the feelings that she was having about this particular situation, that both were in the present, many in the past, and how very little of it had anything, I don't think it was anything to do with me. And it was a relief. And afterwards, she was really grateful for me having taken the time to ask her that, to say what was really going on. And so a good opportunity. I would just note that that is one of 1,000 times, just so you guys know. Any thoughts?
So when you have an experience like that, how do you carry forward the learning to try to apply it to other situations, Philip?
Well, again, staying in the context of my relationship with Grace, there's plenty of opportunities for practice and plenty of opportunities where, I get to feel, like I was saying earlier, icky. And it's like, wait a second, what's going on here? So the learning I had, Karen, was to catch myself in that moment. And again, where I'm at right now is to not always be step 2, but really saying, oh, wait a second, something's just triggered me. Where did that come from? I need to process that. And maybe the third phone conversation I can cover. But really, that's the learning I took away from that, was the need to catch myself and recognize that I'm being triggered and to do something. Don't know exactly what, but to catch myself.
I'm wondering too, feelings and reactions can be so complex. And as we know, feelings are not right or wrong. They just provide us with information, right? And so I think, I wonder sometimes when you and I experience an event together, whatever it is, you and Grace experience an event together. I think sometimes we make an assumption that we all have the same feelings as a result, when very often that is so not the case. There can be myriad feelings of reaction, sometimes really antithetical to each other. And so what do we do with that, Philip? I mean, how do we, I mean, I think listening for understanding is a piece of that, of not making assumptions. But where do we get into trouble when we do that? And how can we maybe prevent that from happening?
Yeah, I wish I had an easy answer to that question. I guess I would say that, well, for me right now, my practice, that's what I can answer that. For me right now, my practice is to stay still and calm. And that allows me not only note my own reaction, but to note and try to be empathetic with others' reactions. And that's the only thing I can say, is because as long as I'm aware of what's going on with me, I can be more aware and support others. So it's often interesting for me to think about, in my upbringing, the types of things that I'm doing, meditation and mindfulness, would seem to be selfish, but my teachers are telling me it's essential in order to be present to these reactions. And so that's for me what's going on right now. It's for me to be present and mindful and empathetic as things come up.
I think it's really hard to, we live from a place of being fairly neo-myopic much of the time. We're immersed in our own feelings, our own reality, our own past, our own present, our own future. And it's difficult to get out of that enough to realize that all of the people around us may be having a very different experience based on their own reality. And so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe a piece of mindfulness is understanding that we can have all different realities and feelings and reactions and experiences, and then check in the moment. What are you feeling right now? What's going on for you right now? And how often do we not do that? We just move on, motor through, and we've missed an opportunity to connect and possibly learn something from what someone else is experiencing in the moment.
Yeah, I just want to share that I think that is one of the benefits of all this going on in our personal relationship. Is I'd say we're pretty attuned to what's going on with our partner, as long as we're with ourselves. We know when they're not quite right. And I think we have the opportunity to check ourselves rather than just saying, well, we'll blow through it or whatever to check ourselves. But maybe. I just want to add, I certainly Grace's reaction was wonderful and appreciated in terms of her not only sharing, but also being grateful for me to check back with her. I would say in general, I think it is very positive when you do actually get to step 2 and ask those questions, because I think it's a relief. I know it's a relief for myself, but I also know it's a release for the other person who may be relieved and released from your reaction, which is, magnifying the situation. So it can be a pressure valve that you let off in the relationship by checking back on those assumptions.
So don't make assumptions. So your homework around this series, it's a wonderful opportunity to take these 4 agreements as a way to inform our 7 principles and our congregational covenant, both of which we also try to live out each and every day. And so I'm going to invite you to spend a little time with any of the 4 agreements of your choice and take a day or a week and try to be intentional about living one of them out and see what you learn, see what you discover, see what you notice, and just try it on just for our own growth and learning and see what that may bring. And then at some point in future weeks, we will explore the fourth agreement.
Please do your best.
Always do your best. Another tall order. They're all tall orders, but what wonderful things to aspire to. So thanks for being with us for the 4 agreements.
Thank you.
Make us so where we are sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary.
As we prepare this morning to move into our time of community prayer and meditation, I wanted to just share briefly from my heart to yours my experience, my family's experience of the last few weeks, and bring you along a little further with me on that journey. In early June, Sue and I heard from my mom, and she was very confused about where she was. My mom has been the caretaker of my dad for the last 12 years since he had a stroke. And so it became clear that all was not well with them. And we were leading into the time of Zach's graduation and all of those celebrations. So I was able to get care in place for them from afar, and then went back there the day after Kristen's party and the weekend of Sophie's wedding. And I arrived back there to discover that it was no longer possible for them to live in their independent living apartment in their senior community, even with a lot of care coming in. And so I set things in motion to move them to an assisted living apartment there in the same community. And before that happened, Zach and Sue and I determined to keep with our plan of taking them to Myrtle Beach for a week for what we knew would likely be the last time. And so we did that, and we were able to stay for the entire week, and it was challenging and worth it. And so glad that we did that. There were 16 of us there. Mom got to see her sisters and my cousins and their children, and we had a wonderful time. And there were some real moments of my dad holding court and telling stories, and just really grateful that to Sue and Zach in particular for saying yes to doing that as a team. And so we came home from that trip on, I drove them back to Greenville after that trip, and that was on July 3rd. July 7th, I moved them into assisted living with a team of my friends who are in Greenville and the facility there. Things were going really well by the next day. I will just tell you that because of both of their limited cognitive states, I was doing that mostly without their participation and understanding, and mostly against their will, really, because they were unable to remember the conversations that we had about it. So it was difficult the first day, and by the next day, they were settling in and things were going so well that I actually moved my plane ticket home sooner. And then by the next day, my dad had taken a couple of falls, and by that Sunday morning, he was in a coma and had drastically declined, and things had changed with him. And that was on, he passed on July 11th, just a few days after we moved them. We had his service on July 16th, at which I spoke and had you with me because I wore the stole that you gave me when I became your minister. You were very much with me for that process. And I returned back here a few days after the service and then went back there again this last week and got back yesterday. So it's been a difficult time of essentially losing them both at the same time, and my mom adjusting to a very different situation without my dad. Mom is 89. Dad would have been 93 this month, and they will have been married 70 years in November. My mom is continuing to decline cognitively a little bit. There's been a lot of diagnostics without confident diagnosis, but they surmise that because she's an AFib, she probably has had some clots that have gone to the brain and caused her cognitive decline. So all that to say, I'll be going back there again in 2 to 3 weeks and on a somewhat more regular basis. But what I really want to say to you is that this is one of those times when spiritual community is just immeasurably essential. And I knew that you were with me, and I got your messages and your cards and your thoughts and your prayers and I knew that you were with me in that time. And I just want to say thank you, that has just meant the world and has really carried me through. So thank you for that. And so we'll go now into our time of community prayer and meditation, joining our hearts and our minds and our spirits and our presence to be together in whatever ways that we need and whatever it is that we bring on this day. We are in it together. The spirit of life and love, ground of our being. We're so grateful for sustenance and love and strength and hope that comes when we need it the most. For those messages and for those hands to hold. We're grateful for the mystery that is community. The way in which, though we are separate beings, we are united somehow and we hold each other up. I take a moment to remember my dad, who was a wonderful daddy to me my whole life, a wonderful husband to my mom. And we give thanks today for all those who have nurtured and informed our lives, all of our lives. Parents, relatives, friends, heroes, mentors, teachers. And we lift into our hearts today those who are ill, those who are struggling, those who are suffering with depression, those who are grieving, those who need a hand to hold. And wherever it is, whether within this community or without, may we be reminded that we are love's hands and feet and voices and bodies on this earth. May we shine the light of our love in places where it is needed. We'll take a moment now for those who are on Zoom to record your prayers in the chat, and for those of us to reflect on where we need to place our energy of love. And so it is that we gather whatever is on our hearts today. Joys, celebrations, concerns, worries, fears. Even those things that are held in such deep places we have no words. And we offer them and we join them together in the heart of love. And we remember and offer a gesture that has become our custom. One hand on the heart, energy of our palm extended outward as a reminder that we are all in this together. We see each other, we hear each other, and we are with each other in whatever path it is that we are on in any given moment. Blessed be, and amen.
Make us aware we are sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through, with thanksgiving. We are a living sanctuary. Sanctuary.
want to thank you so much for joining us for our service today, and hope that you have received something that perhaps you didn't even know you needed when you came in today. I'll ask you to watch your weekly email as usual for all of the events and information that we have upcoming. Although I'm nowhere near up to speed, I suspect that there's a grounds beautification event on Saturday. And then also on Saturday, I want to make sure you're aware that Ann Hanson's service will be in the afternoon. I've forgotten if it's 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. It's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, followed by a meal or heavy hors d'oeuvres to share together on our grounds. So I want to make sure you're aware of that event coming on Saturday. And we do continue to feed hungry neighbors every Wednesday, our Reno Posse. There's information in our email about how you can contribute and help and bring what is needed for that each Wednesday by early afternoon, and you can put it in the bins between the buildings. No matter where we are in our lives or what we are experiencing, I guess perhaps one of the secrets is to keep on moving forward.
Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Reach across our borders. Reach across our borders. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna change the world together. Change the world together. Change the world together. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep our lives with rainbow threads. Keep our lives with rainbow threads. Keep our lives with rainbow threads. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Never turning
Beloveds, would you receive the blessing? Never doubt that you are a spark of love in the universe. I'm going to invite us to take one hand and put it on our hearts and allow that spark within to grow into a fire so that it nurtures you from within first, and then is flung lavishly to the world wherever it is needed. Blessed be, amen, and namaste.